Welcome to Finish Your Race, bringing you real success strategies for empowering your life. Here's your host, Don Armstrong.
Welcome to my weekly Finish Your Race podcast series. I'm your host, Don Armstrong, speaker, author, and survivor. I'm excited that you've chosen to join me today. I hope that you'll tune in every week because I've got a story to tell. Finish Your Race is really about your life's journey and the chapters that make up your story, and stories are so important to you and me. You know, Finish Your Race is about helping individuals navigate through the twists and turns life puts in front of all of us. With that in mind, I'm going to use what I call the 3 A's: adversity, attitude, and action, as a guide for each podcast. The importance of all of these 3 A's were significant in my cancer journey and the survival and making it through it. I believe that the 3 A's and how you manage them is significant in your life. Each week, I will offer uplifting conversations with extraordinary individuals who will share their personal stories of triumph, hope, encouragement, and transformation in the face of adversity, with the intent of offering strategies to help you finish your race. Well, I am excited to share with you today an inspiring individual with an encouraging, uplifting story. He is many, many things, including a syndicated radio show host, a blogger, both titled Defining Audacity. He's a sought-after speaker. He's a consultant and a mentor. He's a brand new author, and we're going to talk about that. He's got a new book coming out called The Tacos and Chocolate Diet. I've got to know more about this. And I know that he works passionately to inspire others to live a bold, adventurous, intentional life. Those are his words, and we're going to hear more about that. This is going to be a fun, fast-paced half hour, so hang on and help me welcome Drew Myers.
Don, you killed that intro, man. That's awesome. You nailed it.
Well, that coming from you, that means a lot. You know, I know that there are so many facets to who you are. You're a dynamic individual. I've listened to your podcast. I've heard you speak live before. But you're dynamic and you make a difference every single day in the world around you. And that's encouraging to me.
Thank you.
I am a believer that we are the sum total of all the experiences in our life. And everything we've done has brought us to this exact moment in time. So, since people may not know who you are, give the listeners an overview of who you are and how you got to where we're at today.
Sure. I appreciate you allowing me to do this. I know this is one of your first recordings of the podcast, so congratulations on that. For somebody that has done a podcast for a long time, it's neat to see other people jumping into the arena. A lot of people talk about jumping into the arena, Don, but you did it, and I love that. I'm a dad, first and foremost. That's my favorite title. I love being a daddy. I have 2 kiddos, and they're the reason why I do what I do. When I graduated from college, I had 11 jobs in 11 years. I didn't know really what I wanted to do. My dad told me, if you're not happy with what you're doing, go do something else, and I embraced that with both arms. And it wasn't until I was 40 years old that I realized what I wanted to do, and that was by accident. They moved a radio station to Glen Rose, Texas. I started recording my radio shows just because I needed to, and I put it out there on the internet, and that's how my podcast was born. But my message of make the important things important, live on purpose, stop saying I'll do it tomorrow, all of those, be bold, all of them, goes back to when I was writing a blog. During those 11 jobs in 11 years, I wanted to get back to writing. I was a journalism major in college and just wanted people to think differently, wanted to inspire. So that's what's led me on this crazy journey. And it is a crazy journey. But I firmly believe with what you said, everything that happened in my life has led me to this moment right here. Absolutely.
Right. Yeah. It's an interesting thing that we all, and I know you talk about stories all the time because you're about finding the stories that people have. We all have a story that's really unique for us. And that story's got a lot of chapters in it, and chapters kind of twist and turn us through life. And sometimes we wind up where we didn't think we were going to be. I'm certainly one of those examples of that. I certainly didn't have a plan to be diagnosed with leukemia, but wow, what an impact it had on my life. It kind of changed the direction for me. Kind of back to my theme, I'm hoping to talk about the 3 A's, because I think we all have adversity affected by attitude, maybe led by action. So I kind of go down that road, having discovered that everybody faces adversity in their life. And it could be something as simple as the car didn't start in the morning, or it could be something as devastating or potentially devastating as a diagnosis of cancer. I've learned that it's not the adversity, but how we react to it that defines and determines who we are in the world. And to me, that was a significant thing. You've had your share of adversity. You already mentioned the fact that you had 11 jobs in 11 years. That's something I'm sure retrospectively you look back and went, whoa, maybe that's not the best approach.
I felt like a loser.
Yeah, I've heard you say that, yeah.
Part of the time you kind of look back and like, what is wrong with me? But again, I wouldn't be sitting here talking to you if I didn't have those 11 jobs in 11 years.
Well, what was it? You were looking for a better job? What kind of led you to the 11 jobs?
I got bored pretty easy. I started off in journalism. That's what I went to school for. So I was working at newspapers. I worked in one in Wichita Falls, and then I went up to Oregon for a year and worked at a newspaper up there. And I said, I don't want to do this anymore. And then that's when I went back to Midwestern, where I graduated from, and I worked in the admissions office there. And I did that for a couple years, and I was like, I'm bored. I want to go do something else. I want to scratch a different itch. And that's when I got into college football. I was a college football coach. That's probably the craziest of all of them. I didn't play college football. I played high school football. But I went down to Blinn College, and I was a volunteer coach. Then I was a student assistant coach. They moved me into the dorms as a dorm mommy to help supplement my salary.
Okay.
And then I became the defensive passing game coordinator. I had no business doing that because, I was learning on the fly. And then that's what led me to TCU as the assistant director of football operations. Just a crazy journey.
It is crazy. What year was that?
Oh, gosh. I went to TCU in 2001.
So who was the coach at the time?
Coach Patterson.
Okay.
I worked for Gary.
Okay. Wow. That's an interesting part about you that I didn't really know about.
At our rehearsal dinner for our wedding, I announced to all my family and friends, those are the ones that go to the rehearsal dinner, the closest of the closest. And I announced to them as soon as we got back from the honeymoon, I would be starting my job at TCU. I grew up in the Metroplex. I grew up in Duncanville, which is probably 30 minutes from the TCU campus. So I was going, quote unquote, home. And so that was a big deal. And I'm going to a major Division I university.
Yeah, under a coach who's become
he's legendary
at TCU for sure.
Right.
Yeah, no doubt about it. So, the adversity. What are some of the other adversity other than I know I read that you had a lot of self-doubt, a lot of self-talk about. You just said, you thought you were a loser. The other adversities along the way that may have helped shape you. What might some of those be?
Sure. Some of the journeys that I went on, I failed. I stumbled. After I evolved into the director of communications for the entire athletic department at TCU, I went out and started my own business that failed. I put all my eggs in one basket. I reached out to family and friends to invest into this company. And just to give you an idea of what it was, we wanted to make memorial giving easy. So we worked with funeral homes across the country. This was before Venmo and PayPal really took off. And it was really just to make memorial giving easy, in lieu of flowers, donate to, the Leukemia Society or whatever it might be. But it failed. My wife got pregnant. We weren't making any money. I got scared, and I went back into the real world because I had to provide for my family. That's one of my biggest hurdles, my biggest trip ups that I've had. One that I talk about in my book that I recently finished it was recent. It was Thanksgiving of 2019, where I just got away from self-care and self-love, and I hit rock bottom. I wasn't taking care of me, emotionally, spiritually, physically, any of it. I just wasn't putting an emphasis on me. I was putting an emphasis on everybody else but me, and that really took a toll on me. So since that moment, Thanksgiving of 2019, the game has changed in the most wonderfully great way. And, you talk about adversity in action. It was the action that I took on that Thanksgiving that changed my life.
Right. Yeah, so you kind of had a moment of recognizing, I guess. It was kind of one of those. For me, it was an aha moment. What the heck have you been thinking moments type of thing. It sounds like you had one of those exact things in recent history, 2019.
I know. I mean, I was well into my 40s at that point, and I'll share with you guys. I don't talk about it that much, but we'll do it on this podcast. My wife had taken the kids to her grandmother's for Thanksgiving. I wasn't invited. I was at home by myself, and I remember vividly standing in front of the garage refrigerator, staring at all my wife's beer. Now, I had stopped drinking at this point. But Don, all I wanted to do was drink every single beer in that refrigerator and just get drunk.
Wow. And
feel something different than what I was feeling. Again, I was lost. But I closed the refrigerator. I grabbed a Topo Chico and closed the refrigerator. I didn't get solo drunk that night. And then after that, I stood in the kitchen staring at a butcher knife. Just staring at it. I wasn't going to kill myself. But I can't swear I wasn't going to hurt myself. Again, I wanted to feel something different. And I stared at that butcher's knife for probably about 5 minutes. And the same thing, just like I was in front of the refrigerator, finally I snapped out of it and I just walked away. So those two decisions were huge, obviously. But then the three things that I decided to do after that changed the trajectory of my life. First thing that I did is I decided the next morning I was going to get up and go run in my sister's makeshift neighborhood turkey trot that she puts on. It was cold. It was rainy. I had never done this before. She'd always invited me. I said, I'm going. I'm coming to Dallas. I'm going to do your little neighborhood turkey trot. The second thing, after that turkey trot, I went to a Starbucks in Cedar Hill, Texas, and I produced a radio show and podcast that I swear to God, 0 people listened to. 0. I am convinced to this day, not a single person listened to that episode, but it was so important to me to do that.
You just had to get it out.
I had to get it out.
Right.
I had to stop and I had to produce it and I had to get it out, knowing nobody was going to listen to it. And then the last thing that I did, I hadn't eaten. It was Thanksgiving, hadn't eaten anything. I stopped at a taco truck in Cleburne, Texas that was open on Thanksgiving Day. I ate 3 $2 tacos, drank a bottle of water that I had in the truck, and listened to the Cowboy game. and it sounds so weird that those random 3 things changed the trajectory of my life, but it was about taking action and not sitting still.
Absolutely.
Game changer.
Yeah, absolutely. I just read recently that this was something I saw on a wall. It said 365 days, 365 new chances. That day was one of your new chances for sure. And, that kind of gets into the whole concept of attitude. You've already kind of alluded to attitude, but I happen to believe that attitude's a game changer. I believe that my attitude was perhaps the difference between life and death when I was going through my journey with leukemia. My doctor used to talk about my attitude and say that he felt like it was something that really made a difference. He encouraged and hoped I could go to the patient next door and talk to them about my attitude because he thought it was such a big deal for me. And I know that attitude can change your life. It can change the direction. It can change the future for all of us. Again, you've shared a little bit about attitude, maybe not directly talking about it. I know you went through some self-doubt that day, had a lot of self-doubt in it. And I know you ask yourself, what the hell's wrong with me? I mean, that's a tough thing to kind of deal with. So, I mean, talk about your attitude and the importance of it in your life, not only on that day of kind of reckoning, but now every day. I mean, how does attitude play into what you do? Sure.
Well, something really cool that I did in the spring is I was the mental coach for my son's baseball team.
Mental coach. That's interesting.
Coach. I know, right? They all have hitting coaches. They all have pitching coaches. They have fielding coaches. But I thought there was a void there with mental coaching. So I asked his coach if I could just work with the boys one-on-one and be the mental coach. It was pretty loose and, not real structured, but he said, sure. But one of the things that we talked about religiously was that they could control only two things over the course of a baseball game: their attitude and their effort. That's it. Umpire has a wide strike zone. You can't control that. The pitcher throws a nasty curveball. There's not really anything you can do about that. Maybe fight it off and live to see his fastball. But attitude and effort, you can control. And I firmly believe that. And working with those boys reminded me of that. My attitude has always been pretty good, but it wasn't until Thanksgiving of 2019 where I kind of flipped that switch that I really recognized that. So one of the ways that we can control our attitude, in my opinion, is every single morning when we wake up, we can choose to be happy or we can choose to be unhappy. And I choose to be happy every day. Now, bad things happen over the course of a day, but just making that choice in the morning, I can always kind of get back to center. I can get back to that foundation and remind myself, hey, I chose to be happy today. Yeah, this bad thing happened or this thing didn't go my way, but remember, I chose to be happy. And I think that's so important. And I think that really can impact your attitude as a whole.
Yeah, I think that one of the most important things you said is that it's a choice. We all make the choice. We can wallow in the moment, or we can choose to change our attitude and change the trajectory of where we're headed. I mean, that's something that's hard to do. It sounds like you do it on a conscious level and probably which has evolved into an unconscious level. Does that sound accurate?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, with kiddos, I think you have to do that so you don't drive the truck off the road and through the ditch and across the field and into the river, when things don't go your way or they act a certain way. I think that's so important. When you're married, you have to do that. And when you're a solo entrepreneur, you have to do that. Things don't always go your way. So yes, how you respond to adversity is what defines you, to be honest with you.
Exactly.
I read a book recently, and I referenced it in my book. Trevor Moab is the author, and he's the mental coach for Russell Wilson. Great book. If you haven't read it, I highly encourage you to. But he's really big on neutral thinking. We're not going to get too high and we're not going to get too low. We're going to stay right here. And that doesn't mean don't get excited about something. That doesn't mean don't celebrate your wins, but it means don't stay there for too long. Get back to neutral. And you're a runner, so you'll appreciate this. I have a rule. After a run, and I've been running every single day for more than 10 years, at least a mile. After a run, no matter how good or how bad, once I take those shoes off, it's over. So if I get done with the run, you're like, oh my gosh, I'm the next Michael Johnson. Nope. Shoes come off, I let it go. Or if after a run, I'm like, that sucked.
Right.
Shoes come off, I let it go.
Right.
So that's that neutral thinking.
Right.
So I think that is key to how you respond to different situations as well.
Absolutely. That's great. So growing up as a young kid playing golf, I remember, I don't know if the name Johnny Miller means anything to you. Johnny Miller was a player back in the 60s, ended up being a broadcaster for NBC, finished his career.
Sounds familiar.
I remember Johnny Miller saying that about the criticism he got about his attitude. He never seemed to have any change in the way he approached things. He said, hey, look, I can get high because I play good, or I can get low because I play bad. He said, none of that matters. He said, it's a matter of staying in the middle of the road. I'm trying to make sure that I look at life the same way without getting too overexcited and too underexcited, for lack of a better word. Sure. It sounds like that's the same kind of thing that you're saying.
Absolutely. I could see in golf how I'm not a good golfer, Don, in any shape, form, or fashion. But I've had those shots that are those great shots. Yeah, and I can't get too excited about that because I'm going to have 18 horrible shots after that. You know what I mean?
Right, of course.
So in golf, that neutral thinking has got to be very important.
Interesting thing. The one good shot, which is the same thing in life, the one good shot can bring you back to play the next day just because of the one good shot you hit. So if we focus on the good shots in life, I think we'll all be better off. So that's great. You know, you're bringing out my hope was to get some real nuggets from this conversation, and I'm excited to say it's happened already. We've already talked a little bit about action and how important it is. I believe that action is the real catalyst. You know, we look at goals, we look at things we want to do. They don't mean anything until we apply action to them. An idea doesn't mean anything until we apply action to it. Action can solve a problem. It can move us in the right direction. It can bring a goal to fruition. To me, that's exciting. I know for a fact it leads to change. I was diagnosed with a pretty serious adversity of cancer. I chose, we're talking about choosing things. I chose a positive attitude. I also chose to take action to get through it. No doubt, because of what we talked about. You're a person of action. I know that, there had to be a moment where you said, enough's enough. We've talked a little bit about that. How does action play forward in your daily life? I mean, I know you've talk again about some of those moments where you said, that's it, I've had it. I got to get out of this.
Sure. You know, I say you get to the point of enough. You've got to get to the point of enough to make change, to take action. Whether you're sick and tired of something, you've had enough of that, or you want something bad enough that you're going to take the steps to do it. You know, when you came on my show, we talked about life lists and bucket list.
Right.
And I think that is so important. But the second part of that conversation is, and a life list is just like a bucket list. It's just putting an emphasis on the life, not the death. But it's vision. There's your vision, your life list, your bucket list. But it's action also, vision and action. And I tell people all the time, 9 out of 9 times, the action with a life list item is a Google search. For example, I want to go to Hawaii. Okay, that's awesome. Do you know how much it costs to go to Hawaii? No idea. Do you know the best time to go to Hawaii? No idea. I mean, that's 2 Google searches right there.
Right.
Now you have an idea of what it takes to get to Hawaii and when to go to Hawaii. And that sometimes is just enough to keep that ball rolling. So I love the action steps. And I, shared with you earlier about the 3 things that I did on that Thanksgiving of 2019, 3 random action steps that changed my life. But I wasn't going to sit still. I wasn't just going to stand there. I had to move.
Absolutely. I'm curious I'm wanting to get to your new book, but I want to ask you to, maybe if you have 1 or 2, and maybe you just talked about it, what piece of advice can you give to the listeners to keep them moving forward? I believe it's important that we're always looking forward, but not just looking forward, but moving forward in their life. I mean, what little pieces of advice can you give to the listener in terms of that?
Sure. Okay. So this is a good segue into the Tacos and Chocolate Diet, my book that'll come out in September. The premise of the book is to generate hope, inspire action, and to remind people to make the important things important, starting with themselves. And I think that's my big advice to people now, is make the important things important. And what I love about that charge, Don, is what's important to you is different than what's important to me. What is different than what's important to my wife or to my parents. We have to decide what's important to us and put an emphasis on that. Now, there are certain things that are probably on everybody's list, right? When I do public speaking, I have people close their eyes for 15 seconds. I want you, all right, think about what's important to you. All right, open your eyes. And I said, you don't have to raise your hand, but who had food, water, and sleep on your list? And it's so funny. People shake their head. Nope. And I was like, well, hey, guys, just for the record, that needs to be on there because you need those things to live. Okay?
True.
Those should be very important. But then we talk about time. That should be on your list. That should be on everybody's list because we have a limited amount of it, whether you're talking about 24 hours in a day or, the time you have in your life. And you don't know when that time will expire. Another thing are relationships. That should be, something of importance in your life. Your parents, your spouse, your kiddos, your friends, all of it. So I think making the important things important is key. The last part of that, though, is we have to make ourselves important. And when we start doing that, when we're intentional about self-love and intentional about self-care, we have no alternative but to continue to move forward.
And when you give yourself that self-care, it really benefits all the other things you talked about. The relationships and everything seem to grow and become better. Would you agree?
Absolutely. In order to be the best dad, the best podcast host, the best speaker, the best son, the best husband, I have to take care of me. I cannot pour into anyone else unless I have taken care of myself. I have a mantra that I say on a daily basis. And again, this comes from that book by Trevor Moab. He worked with Michael Johnson, and Michael Johnson, every time he ran, he had a mantra that he said. And I said, that's cool. My son has one and I have one. And it's not about me, but it's about other people. But I understand that I have to take care of me in order to live this mantra. And the mantra is eyes on God, others first, no excuses. I am a warrior, stay in the fight. I cannot pour into other people unless I take care of Drew Myers first. Wow,
that's inspiring. I mean, if anybody didn't get anything out of that, then we all need to pay attention to that because it's really important. I mean, we get so tied up into the me part of life where we actually maybe forget about others. I can tell you I was an absolute poster child for exactly what you said early in my career.
I remember you telling me that in our conversation.
Yeah, I was so focused on me that the other people in my life really didn't mean anything, and I really wasn't giving myself the benefit of the doubt to have an impact on other people's lives. And so I had to get cancer for that to mean anything to me. I don't want anybody else to have to get cancer, but I hope in messages like the one that you're presenting today and the ones that I'll have in the future that can come out loud and strong for people to hear, because it's really important. It is about taking care of yourself so that you can be a better person for the others around you.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Kind of wrapping up, you've got so much going on. We've talked a little bit about your book, but how can people get your book? When's it going to come out?
Okay, it comes out in September. Pre-orders are out now. And go wherever you get your ebooks at. Right now, the ebook version is out. And we're really pushing the ebook right now. It's only 99 cents. And everybody's like, only 99 cents? Yeah, I'm not trying to make any money off this. My number one goal is to make the USA Today bestseller list.
Okay.
So we want people to go and buy the ebook, tell their friends to buy the ebook. And all you have to do is, whether you go to Nook or you go to Amazon and just search the tacos and chocolate diet, it'll pop up. We've got a placeholder cover on there because we're shooting the cover next week in Fort Worth. And yeah, just buy it for 99 cents and tell your friends.
So if someone looks and thinks about the tacos and chocolate diet and what that book's going to offer them, what's your quick synopsis on that?
Well, the first thing I tell them is you're not going to lose weight by just eating Mexican food and peanut M&Ms. You're not going to do it. That's not what the book is about.
All right.
The book is, again, about generating hope, inspiring action, and reminding people to make the important things important. I tell my story, or part of my story, and then I share 10 lessons that I've learned over those 11 jobs in 11 years. The fact that my biggest fear is being irrelevant. And I present them in a fun, unique way. And then I continue to tell my story through those 10 lessons. So the feedback that we've gotten on the book through our beta readers and through our editor has been very, very positive. And probably the best compliment that I got about the book was two things. One, somebody said, it feels like you're talking directly to me. I love that. And the other one was from somebody who doesn't read nonfiction books. And she said, your book made me feel like anything was possible. I mean, that's like gas on my fire.
Wow.
Yeah, I know. Wow,
that's
right?
Awesome. Yeah, that's awesome.
Let's go.
Exactly. That's what we all hope particularly if we're kind of in that public arena, we just hope that we can make that impact on one person that either hears us or reads what we have to say. That's some accomplishment in my mind.
Well, my goal through all of this initially was not to make any bestseller list, but I'm using that to leverage more speaking opportunities. So again, we can, grow our audience, same thing that you're trying to do. My thing was I wanted people to get the book, whether they bought it or they were given the book, and be impacted by one thing in the book. I didn't want it just a whole bunch of people to buy it and it sit on a shelf to die. I want somebody to read it and make a positive impact in their life.
Terrific goal. I love that. I love that. What are some other ways that people can connect with you on social media or your podcast? How can people find you and join you on a weekly basis?
The best place to start is drewmyers.life, and that's MYERS. That has everything and anything that I do, whether that's my live audience show with singer-songwriters on the Texas music scene, the book, my speaking, all of it's there, drewmyers.life. If you want to find me on social, just search Defining Audacity. That's my overarching brand. We're kind of spreading out from there, but that's another great place to start. So those two places, I would say go there first.
Okay. Any speaking engagements coming up?
I have some cool things that we're working on. It's revolving around the book launch. So what we're doing is I'm not charging to do these speaking engagements.
Nice.
I know that's kind of a sin, right?
Yeah.
But we're asking these organizations that we're going to talk to gift our ebook to everybody. Maybe that's not, maybe it's the people just in the room, but maybe it's their entire organization. For example, we're in conversations right now with Collin College up in Collin County about talking to their students, but they would gift the book to every single person that works for Collin College. So I'll come in, talk for 45 minutes for quote unquote free, and they gift, I don't even know what the number is, 250 99-cent ebooks. So it's a win-win. They get me for the cheap. I get 250 ebooks sold, and we're making a run at those USA Today bestseller numbers.
I love that. That's a terrific approach to getting your message out. I think that's a great way to go. So, listen, I appreciate you being on with me today. You're a fascinating personality. And I mean that. I've followed you for a long time, and I've always appreciated what you had to say and use a number of your approaches to life to kind of make it to the next day, to keep looking forward. So everybody, that's a wrap for the weekly Finish Your Race podcast. Follow me on Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. And if you're looking for a speaker at your next event, reach out to me at donarmstronglive.com. I'd love to be a part of whatever you're doing. So until next time, finish your race, and just don't finish that race. Finish your race strong. Thanks so much, everybody. See you next time.
You've been listening to Finish Your Race with Don Armstrong. To learn more about the resources mentioned on today's show or listen to past episodes, visit finishyourrace.com.